Right. Thanks to the True Geordie for inspiring me to do this. I basically have just watched his video on the Kickoff YouTube channel, which is all about the Newcastle takeover. And as you guys have probably noticed over the last couple of days, I have tried to avoid commenting on this because I tried to keep focused strictly to Sunderland. But some of the things that he did say kind of resonated with me in a lot of ways, and I wanted to sort of put some of what he said and put it on a Sunderland perspective. I'll quickly have my thoughts on what the Newcastle consortium takeover happens, though. Taking my Sunderland hat off, it is embarrassing that the Premier League have made them wait 4 months, and it does seem to me that they can't stand the idea of some other clubs starting to challenge the so-called bigger clubs in the Premier League, and they seem to want to maintain a high standard that other clubs aren't allowed to reach by the looks of it. Now, as a Sunderland fan, if Newcastle got taken over by the Saudis and become one of the richest clubs in the world, quite frankly, I couldn't have handled it. I think we wouldn't have heard the end of it from a lot of fans. And by the way, I don't blame them. I don't blame some of their fans for getting excited about this. Of course, Mike Ashley, it's safe to say that they're not exactly best buddies, are they? They've gone around over the last 13 years, and relationship is at pretty much a low point. They hate each other exclusively mutually by the looks of it, and it just looks like there's nothing's going to happen there. So when the chance came for them to actually get taken over and get a multi-million-pound or billionaire even Saudi consortium buying the club, I don't blame them for getting excited. If it was our situation, we'd be doing exactly the same thing. However, there's a couple of things that the True Geordie did mention in his video that I did kind of want to talk about here. First of all, obviously, he couldn't, obviously when he mentions something, he goes, we could be like, if Newcastle go down, we could be like Blackburn, Forest, or even worse, Sunderland, and all that malarkey. Look, he's a Newcastle fan, fair enough. He's not going to be exactly objective about us, is he? But some of the things he did say that did kind of resonate with me in a lot of ways, and it's something that's been on my mind for quite some time now, actually. And it's one of these things that, I was debating doing a video called the difference between arrogance and expectations whenever people come out with this garbage that we're arrogant and delusional for expecting to get out of League One, which I will keep reminding again, which is a division that this next season will only be our fourth in 141 years of history. History, obviously, as we know, doesn't guarantee you winning anything. It doesn't guarantee anything, but what it should do is provide context for why certain fan bases have certain expectations. Arsenal, again, Sunderland being in League One is like Everton getting relegated to the Championship. That's pretty much the best level I can put it. But I wanted to talk about, not just for the last couple of years we've been in League One, but really since our underachieving era in the Premier League. And yes, I am going to call it underachieving era. One point True Geordie made in his video was that the Premier League didn't want the Newcastle takeover to go through because they can't stop what could snowball off it afterwards. Now, I always use that argument with Sunderland because I do believe, while Sunderland aren't as big as Newcastle, I have to admit that, begrudgingly, but I will admit it, we are not as big as Newcastle, but I do still believe, and people can call me arrogant, delusional for this, whatever, I don't really care, to be honest. Sunderland are still, for me, one of the biggest clubs certainly easily for me the biggest club outside the Premier League in England, and I also think we are one of the biggest clubs in England in my opinion. It's as simple as that, and I think that one of the reasons is because one of the stadium structure we've got is great. It's got one of the best grounds in the country that holds nearly 50,000 people. Yes, you can say about attendances and all that, but as I mentioned in the video about it's the fans' fault apparently, our attendances since we've dropped out of the Premier League, given what we've had to endure watching, has actually been very good. So let's not use that. So Stadium Elite, one of the best stadiums in the country. You've got a Category 1 academy, one of the only clubs outside the Premier League to have a Category 1 academy. Granted, we do absolutely bottle with it, but we still have it nonetheless. You've got one of the best fan bases, and I don't care what anyone says, we've got one of the best fan bases in the world. I know every single set of fans of any club can claim that. But when you look, if you don't believe me, go and watch Sunderland Till I Die. If you look at it seriously, without just looking at it for a laugh, we have actually been through the mire over the last decade or so. And on top of that, you've won 6 league titles in our history. You can say, and I don't care however many years ago it was. I don't really care, to be honest. That is something that we have every right to point to. We are ahead of Chelsea and Man City in the pecking order in that respect. We're obviously not going to be in years to come because Chelsea and Man City are easily going to overtake that. But the point is, we are, in top flight titles, we are in that list, and there's so many things that really, really anger me here. Right, if you think back to when we were in the Premier League, and you think back to, let's look at the different narratives here. Now, again, True Geordie again mentioned in his video that, the narrative is that the narrative amongst some of the media towards Newcastle fans is, well, why we, the narrative that staying up in the Premier League for Newcastle is an achievement. and that you feel they should be doing better than that. Now, that for me is one of the big reasons I started this YouTube channel in the first place. So first of all, True Geordie, you won't be watching this, but if you are, thanks for the inspiration there. It'd be nice if you could unblock us on Twitter, actually. That'd be quite good, at MichaelBowers15 if you want to. But the point he was making is the point I've constantly made with Sunderland. Now, if anyone took their objective hats out of it, Sunderland, you can say, but Sunderland's been known for relegation over the last so many years. Yeah, but we shouldn't be. That's the point. We shouldn't be known just for simply accepting relegation. And I said at the time that I don't want us to become the new Wigan Athletic. I don't want us to become the team that is just known for surviving relegation at the end of every season, when the team clearly does try harder at the end of every season. And the point was, we should be doing better. Now again, with all due respect to these clubs, who, by the way, before anyone tries to criticise me, listen to this point. These clubs have definitely deserved to be above us in the pecking order in terms of like league standing and league position at the time. But you think back to when we were in the Premier League, you had clubs like Stoke, you had Swansea, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, a host of other clubs that I can't think of at the top of my head. There's a host of other clubs that have constantly come up and outperformed Sunderland and done much better than Sunderland. Now for me, that dispels the myth that it is completely unrealistic. It just destroys that argument completely. You can say geography and all that stuff, but really, this is the thing, players shouldn't be like that. They shouldn't be looking just at where they're living. Obviously, I get to some level they are going to be, but you should be, for me, looking at the club that you're playing for. Sunderland have a massive history and a huge fan base, and it's one of these things that people just didn't, and especially those in the media, just didn't seem to be bothered about it, to be honest. And truth be told, this is like I said, that is the big reason I started this YouTube channel, because I didn't see enough of the attitude that Sunderland are underperforming and underachieving. Again, given the fan base, the history, the stature, everything that's there, we were underperforming, and I don't want anyone trying to convince me otherwise, because we were underperforming. We were constantly settling for fourth bottom at the end of every single Premier League season, rather than, attempt to do better. We were again, if someone like Burnley, and again, I like Burnley and I like Sean Dyche, but if Burnley have proved that you can get into that top 10 in the Premier League. Sheffield United have done it, and Chris Wilder's done an amazing job there. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, that's where Sunderland are now, obviously, because we're in League One, but at the time, when we were in the Premier League, the narrative always seemed to be, right, relegation's coming. Relegation, does that mean we just have to accept it? No, I'm sorry, that's garbage. We shouldn't have to have accepted relegation just because it was perceivably coming over the so many years. Why shouldn't Sunderland fans have said, no? That is why I said on YouTube blatantly, no, I'm expecting better than this, given what we can achieve. And this kind of, to go back to the point I made earlier, when, the snowballing effect from Newcastle getting taken over, if someone got it right at Sunderland, I honestly believe Sunderland could be a huge deal. Really could be. Are we going to be in Europe or Champions League? No, of course not. But I really feel that Sunderland, and if any set of fans have been put through the mire like that, it's Sunderland. Now, Bolton and Bury are two good examples of clubs that can claim to have it harder than us, and I of course know there are clubs who've had it worse than Sunderland. Of course we have. Of course they have. But let's put this into context. Imagine you're supporting Sunderland. Imagine you're supporting us, right? Imagine you're settling for fourth bottom at the end of every single season. And you're watching clubs that are perceivably smaller come up, constantly outperform you, spend less than you, do better than you. They have half the fan base you've got. And I mean, that's down to stadium size, that's fair enough. But these are other clubs that have proven you can actually perform better. You can actually do better and perform to your potential. For me, a full potential Sunderland is a Europa League challenging side. For me, a full potential Sunderland is at the very least a top 10 Premier League side and really giving the cups a good go. And I mean the League Cup and FA Cup. Now, then imagine you have Allardyce. Someone who, some people rolled his eyes at Allardyce for whatever reason because of his style of football. But Allardyce and Sunderland, that was a good combination. It was a good fit. We had, in my opinion, even though it was 9 months and I've only been into football for 9-10 years, some of the best football Sunderland played was under Sam Allardyce. And it was direct, it was quick, we were pressing teams, we had a team that actually tried most of the games and wanted to be there. Now, obviously England come calling, but think back to that night after the Everton game. It wasn't just the fact that, I'm not going to lie, relegating Newcastle was I'm not going to lie, it did bring some joy. Of course, if it was Newcastle the other way around, of course they would be saying the same thing. But I just think that we had the chance right then and there to build on it. Now, were we allowed to? Well, of course we weren't. England come along, Allardyce goes. Now, you've replaced him with Moyes, someone who obviously didn't do anything at Man United and Sociedad, but I've always said Sociedad, league, culture, country, completely different scenario. Man United, right after Ferguson came in, and chances are, compared to what Ferguson did, anyone would have struggled that season anyway. Now that you can argue that. Now Sunderland, for Moyes, for me at Sunderland should have worked, really should have done. But no, so you've lost your best hope of finally punching it your weight in the Premier League, and you've brought someone in who was arrogant, was just an ignorant idiot, and just didn't seem to take responsibility upon himself, led to one of the worst, pathetic relegations I've ever... And obviously that's the first time I've seen us getting relegated, but it was a pathetic relegation, and this is from someone who watched almost all the games that year. There were lots of players in that team that shirked responsibility and didn't try. So then, going down once was bad enough. Now imagine you're in the Championship. Right, we might finally win some games. We might finally do something. Oh, no. The expectation's not to go up. No, we're not going to bother. What? Sunderland in the Championship, and your expectation isn't to go up? Really? I didn't think we would go up that year. I thought there was quite a lot to sort out. But that's what the aim for a club like Sunderland should have been in the Championship, regardless of what's going on off the pitch. And then you think you sell Jordan Pickford and you sell Vito Minoni, the latter of which I think is quite an underrated goalkeeper personally. But you've then got those two sold for 32 million, and again, regardless of the financial circumstances, Ellis Short brought that on himself. We basically sold Jordan Pickford just to give Ellis Short a bit of money back in return. That's it. We might as well have kept Jordan Pickford in that sense. But then you have one of the worst seasons in your entire history, and we got slated by a lot of people for half of, for some of the fans are giving up and not bothering to go. Well, has it not occurred to you that some of the fans were just sick of watching us underperform every year and watching us scrape the same relegation battle, and we weren't building on it, we weren't doing anything, we were constantly stagnating and accepting and just basically just happy with 17th, fourth from bottom in the Premier League. Bearing in mind that was in our... By the time we got relegated, that was our 10th. Not first, second, third, fifth, sixth, 10th year in a row in the Premier League. You shouldn't be in relegation battles at that point, I'm sorry. Not for a club of Sunderland size. Then, you go into the Championship, and it's followed by one of the worst seasons in your entire history. You're getting battered constantly, week in, week out. It's depressing. You're watching it and you're not getting any joy from, and it feels like an outright chore to go and watch your football team play. And bearing in mind, we had one home win throughout the whole of 2017. And bearing in mind, half of the teams that came up were Championship teams. Truthfully, not anyone really that good came up that year, apart from like Man United, Man City, Tottenham and Liverpool. Southampton, maybe, you could argue in that. But there you go. That's embarrassing in and of itself. We nearly went a whole calendar year without winning at home. Name me another fan base that would put up with that. Then you've got the next one. You get relegated again, finishing bottom. You finish below Burton Albion. Now again, Burton have done tremendously well to do what they have done, and I've got great respect for Burton as a club, but I'm just putting that in there for context. Then you go into League One. Now, you've then got a chance to rebuild. You've got a chance to go out and do something. Now, bear in mind, League One, I would like to think, rightly, is a league that some fans feel we should be bigger than. Now, again, we don't have the God-given... Now, people, please listen to this. We know we don't have the God-given right to win League One. What we do have, however, is an expectation for a league that, again, we've only been in for 4 years out of 141 for next season anyway. We rightly have the... Why shouldn't we expect to go up? Like, again, it's like Everton being in the Championship. Or I'll use another example. It's like Newcastle being in the Championship. You can't tell me their attitude going into that season would have been, oh, well, we've got to remember where we are, and therefore we can't have the expectation to go up. No, of course, that's ridiculous. Of course they would have the expectation to go back up. Again, it's like if Everton got relegated, they'd have the expectation to go back up. It's like say if Oxford were in the National League, or half the teams that were in League One were in the National League. Of course they'd expect to go up. Why shouldn't they? Anyway, then you go down to League One. That then becomes the worst season in your entire history. In that season, you lose twice at Wembley at the death in the space of 2 months. That becomes the worst season in your entire history. But because of what happened off the pitch, you're forgiving of it to some extent, as long as you go up the next year. Then the next year you do worse again, and then you end up finishing 8th in League One, albeit through points per game, but you still finish 8th in League One. The worst season in Sunderland's entire history as a football club. So bearing in mind, and some people have had a go at the fans for this, and that is absolutely ludicrous. There's no way the fans should get the blame for this, because a lot of us have actually stuck by the club in back-to-back relegations, followed by the 2 worst seasons of the club's entire history. We've actually been too patient, if anything. And that, again, is one of the big reasons I started my YouTube channel, because I'm getting fed up of this narrative with Sunderland fans being, oh, look at how delusional they are, look at, they're expecting too much. No, nah. There's no way that that narrative has got any substance or validity to it, because we have been put through so much. Again, go and watch Sunderland Till I Die. Watching it with an objective eye. If you're looking there just for a laugh, don't bother. If you're looking at it as an objective way, look at it and say, right, we deserve so much more than this. And as True Geordie said, there are some fan bases you could argue deserve better. Bolton and Bury, or AFC, but whatever they're called now, they're two examples alone, and they're clubs who've had it hard on us. Sunderland fans don't deserve this. We don't deserve to be languishing in League One, and there you go. And the biggest thing for me is, again, the national press, I understand, are not going to cover Sunderland while we're in League One. I get that. I completely understand that. But if you look at some of the North East press, as an example, Luke Edwards is a good example, and if he's watching this, feel free to have a right of reply, by the way. Now, I'm not trying to have a personal dig at Luke Edwards, but he's just an example of what I'm talking about. In his Twitter bio, it literally says North East Sports Reporter. It literally says that. North East Sports Reporter, or something of that description. If it just said Newcastle Reporter, fine. And again, I've got no issue with that. Newcastle will get more coverage than Sunderland. That's completely fine. They're in the Premier League. They are a bigger deal than us at the moment, unfortunately. They are going to get more coverage. That's how it works. What I don't get, however, is that the national press, and the Sunderland Echo started doing this, the Chronicle SCFC section of it have started, covering Sunderland and really pointing fingers at the ownership. We deserve to get fingers pointed at, by the way. But then you're looking at the likes of George Corkin, Luke Edwards, and Keith Downey, although I do feel sorry for him to a point, because he's working for Sky Sports, who's a major organisation. Now, Luke Edwards is working for The Telegraph, George Corkin, The Athletic. There's so many different examples of this. Craig Hope, The Daily Mail. These are people who claim to be in the North East section and covering North East football. Barely anything has been mentioned on Sunderland. Now, granted, I don't read The Athletic, I'm not subscribed to it, so you can maybe say I'm talking rubbish there. But George Corkin is someone I really do respect. You look at Luke Edwards, though, he doesn't even tweet about Sunderland. And that, for me, right there, is the problem with a lot of the media, especially the ones that are supposed to be covering the North East. It's Newcastle, 90% of it, and then 10% Middlesbrough and Sunderland if we're lucky. Now, I understand again that Newcastle will get more coverage, but that doesn't mean that Sunderland should be completely ignored. We are a sleeping giant. I don't care what anyone says. We are a sleeping giant that should be doing so much better than we are. And the fact is that likes of Luke Edwards needs to be pointing more fingers at Sunderland. And he goes on that Newcastle have got in a crisis. And yeah, Newcastle, of course, some of my close mates are Newcastle fans, and I would say them as a fan base deserve better, as much as I don't like them, But Sunderland fans, again, Luke Edwards, they need to really look at what's going on at Sunderland. They really do need to look at this, because we're in a worse, even though Newcastle have got their own problems, and fair enough, they have every right to moan about them, we're in a much direr situation than they are. And it's about time some of the alleged North East press start to really pay attention to that. We are facing a third season in League One, and if we're not careful, we could really start to struggle financially. We're looking at, apparently we could already be struggling with not having fans in the ground for next season. So, look, sorry this has gone on for about 18 minutes, but it was just some stuff I wanted to get off my chest and talk about. I respect if you disagree with me, that's fine. As long as it's in a respectful manner, that's fair enough. I've got no issue with that. Now, I love you and leave you there, guys. Thanks for the support you show me, and I'll see you all later. Take care.